Greetings everyone, and welcome to another Sol at the Movies. I just got back from seeing Isle of Dogs by Fox Searchlight Pictures. And here are my thoughts on it. So Isle of Dogs is about, well, dogs. More specifically, dog illnesses. Dog flu and snout fever have reached epidemic levels in Japan, so the Japanese government sends the dogs to a quarantine island that's made entirely of garbage to live out the rest of their days, so that the infections don't cross the species gap. And the very first dog sent over is a dog named Spots, who is a bodyguard to a young boy named Atari Kobayashi. However, Atari doesn't seem to like having his dog taken away from him, and so he goes to the Isle of Dogs, made of garbage, to go and find his dog. So, that's the very, very basic description. There's more to it than that. In terms of actual plot, though, it's great. I mean, talk about a non-traditional story right there. Yeah, don't really see that kind of stuff in animation, and I really appreciate the effort that they had to try and tell a story that has not been beaten into a bloody pulp, as far as I'm concerned. So, plot is definitely where it gets some A marks right there. In terms of characters, though, well, there's a lot of them. There's a lot of the dogs, like Chief is the main dog, who is the leader, a stray, who doesn't seem to want to tag along with Atari to try and find his dog. And there's King, as well, and the other dogs. And there's, of course, Atari, who has no personality whatsoever. There's Nutmeg, who's, like, one of the only female dogs who has no personality. Nobody has personality. Okay? Like, personality is a federal offense when it comes to Wes Anderson's movies, it seems. Nobody has any emotion, they're all flat. I'm gonna get into that a little bit later, but let's just say that I could understand if people do like them, but nobody has anything. There's also the white girl, Tracy, who, she's a transfer student from Ohio. She has the most personality over everyone, and she's like the only white character in the entire movie. I'm not even gonna touch that with like a 60-foot pole, but let's just say that there is something that kind of ifs me about Tracy's character, but again, we'll get to that. So what's good about this movie? Well, obviously the visual style. I mean, the attention to detail, the sheer amount of shit that's going on in the movie, like good shit, you know, stuff that's filling the screen it's amazing. It has to be one of the most involved stop-motion films I've ever seen. It's flooring at times how just amazing it is. All the stuff that's going on, everything. I mean, this is probably, next to Kubo and the Two Strings, it probably has to be the best stop motion I've ever seen in a film, in just terms of scope and scale. It's incredible. I also really like the Japanese angle that the movie takes, even though I feel like it could have technically taken place in any part of the world and it would have been the same type of story. I don't think it's an exclusively Japanese story, but in terms of expression, I really enjoy it because I like Japanese culture. No, I'm not a weeb. I just like Japanese culture. I don't think it's better than mine. I just like it. So yeah, in terms of that, it's really cool. There was only one thing I noticed that they didn't get right about Japanese culture, where if you have a picture of someone who's dead, you're supposed to have black bands on the sides to symbolize their death, but that's just a tiny little thing. It's nothing worth criticizing. What is worth criticizing, though, is something that plagues the entire movie. Now, I'm familiar with Wes Anderson's directing style in that he does everything very emotionless and, you know, very deadpan and serious kind of, and that's where the comedy comes from. That works well for his live-action stuff, but this is something I didn't actually mention in my Fantastic Mr. Fox review, because I thought at the time it was kind of nitpicky, as in like, well, maybe that's just his style, it's not worth harping on about, but now I can confirm that Wes Anderson's style and directing style in terms of animation, it kind of kills movies for me, because 60% of the shots in the entire movie are characters just staring at you, straight on, like straight into the camera, kind of staring at you, for long takes, and the fact that none of the characters have any emotion in their voices, they can't emote with their faces, there's no facial tics or anything like that, nobody has anything, really. The movie just comes off, presentation-wise, as flat. It's flat, and because it's flat, it's boring. It's too long, and then because there's nothing really tangible to grip onto in terms of emotion, it becomes boring. Now, it does have a good climax, I will give it that, but see, I feel like I'm definitely in the minority here on this, and I can understand if you don't agree with me. It's totally fine. I just think that in order for you to make a connection with your characters, you have to have some sort of emotion. You can't just tear the eyes up of the models and expect people to go like, oh, that's sad. Because when you have a sad character, you're supposed to, like, make them look sad. You can't just throw tears in their eyes and expect people to be sad for them. You have to give people something to care about. And it's not good. It's too flat for me. Too flat, too dull, and too boring. And like I said, none of the characters have any personality. The 2 female dogs might as just well not be in there at all. The only female that has, like, any bearing on the plot at all is the white girl, Tracy, who's a transfer student. She basically saves the day. It's like, why couldn't you let Atari save the day, who also has no personality? And even though there's the language gap, he speaks exclusively Japanese, which is unsubtitled Japanese. I can already tell that the person who plays Atari is not the greatest voice actor. Might just be the direction, but yeah, he just is very, again, flat and boring. So, yeah, it's really disappointing because of that. I mean, this is a movie that I could see being one of my favorite movies of all time if it wasn't, maybe if Wes Anderson didn't direct it. Now, when I saw it, everybody in the theater was laughing all the time, black humor, dark humor, wit, everything like that. I just didn't think it was funny. I don't know, maybe it was the mood I was in or something, but it was just, like, not funny to me. I maybe laughed, like, 3 times in the whole movie, which is better than Sherlock Gnomes, but it's just something about it just doesn't click with me, I think. Even though I feel like it's a movie I should love, I just don't. It doesn't connect with me in that way. And it's funny, because not only is it stop motion, it's also about Japan, partially in Japanese, and it's about dogs, and I adore dogs, and yet nothing in it gels properly with me in terms of enjoyment. So, would I say this is a bad movie? Absolutely not. This is just a movie that for some reason doesn't gel well with me, but it gels well with general audiences. And if you're at all curious, I'd say check it out. In fact, I highly recommend you check it out because it's great to encourage movies like this with the amount of care and attention to detail and scope and scale and everything like that. It's really worth your time to encourage movies like this. I had such a hard time finding a showing of it, and I really think that people need to encourage more showings. Show people, you vote with your wallets, and if you vote and say, yes, we want more of this, then you're definitely justified in doing that. So yeah, I don't know what it is with this movie. It doesn't click well with me, but does that mean I don't recommend it? Absolutely not. I think it's a great movie for a general audience, just not for me, and I recommend it pretty much to the moon and back. And that's all I have to say about that.